Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plans. Today's video is going to be a reading recap for March 2024. If you're interested in seeing what books I read last month, please stick around. Okay, so bear with me. I'm not filming in my usual location. I was hoping to film this video a lot earlier in the day. It's getting dark out, so I did have to put a light on. So if the lighting is a little wonky, I apologize. I'm trying to film this video quickly because I'm actually filming this on March 31st. I'm filming it on the last day of the month. I'm having surgery bright and early tomorrow morning, and I think I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit. So I wanted to film this before I had surgery. That way it can post pretty soon in the month of April. So March was definitely an interesting reading month. I read 12 books this month, which is more than I read in January or in February, but I didn't have any 5-star reads, which was kind of a bummer because some of the books that I put on my TBR, I intentionally did so because I was hoping to have at least one 5-star read. But I will say I did not get to all of the books on my March TBR. There are 2 books that I didn't get to, and they're actually the same 2 books that were on my February TBR and I didn't get to in the month of February either. And that was Such a Lovely Family and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I definitely want to get to those books. I don't know, I just wasn't in the mood. It wasn't the vibe. So yeah, maybe in April, we'll see. Let's get started with the first book that I read in March. I was fortunate enough to get a review copy of this from the Dial Press. This actually arrived the day before my birthday, which is on March 1st. So on my birthday, I spent the day reading this book, and that is Swift and Saddled by Lyla Sage. This is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. The first book is done and dusted. I really enjoyed it. So this book was definitely one of my most anticipated reads of 2024. And I really enjoyed it. I had such a good time reading this. Wes, the male lead, was a character that really intrigued me in Done and Dusted. And so I was very excited to find out that the second book in the series was going to be his story. I don't think I liked this one quite as much as Done and Dusted. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely still really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. It just, for me, it was a little tiny step down from Done and Dusted. Next, we have a book that I read in the month of March because I'm going to be reading the sequel in April. And this book is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is a YA romance. It was definitely an interesting plot. It all takes place over the course of one day, and there's basically a scavenger hunt going on, and it's a little bit of like opposites attract or enemies to lovers. I don't know. It was cute. I really liked the premise and the plot, and yeah, this was enjoyable. I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up was an ARC that I was fortunate enough to receive from Celadon Books. And I got the physical ARC for this, but I was also approved for the advanced listening copy on NetGalley. So I did listen and read together, which is something I don't think I've ever really done before. And this book is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was definitely a really fun read for me. There was a lot of suspense in this one, a lot of wondering and questioning who's telling the truth, who's lying, what's for real, what's for not, who's the actual bad guy here, bad guy. And the audiobook was so good for this one. I really enjoyed listening to it, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book we're going to talk about is one that I received a review copy of several months ago, and I just hadn't gotten around to it. And I will say I initially started listening to this on Spotify because it did already come out. And then I started kind of listening and reading together. And I will be honest, I think that's why I got through this. And this book is The Helsinki Affair. I don't know. This one just didn't really connect with me. I think I just really had a hard time with our female main character. I didn't feel emotionally connected to her, and that made it challenging to get through the story. There was a then and now timeline, which I did really enjoy, and I was definitely really curious to figure out what our mystery was, but also how it was going to play out. But I think overall, this one ended up being a little underwhelming for me, and I ended up giving it 2.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that we're going to talk about is one that I don't have a physical copy of. I received this as a digital ARC through NetGalley, and that is How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kuang. This one was really, I was excited to read this because I wanted another adult romance, and I was hoping that I was going to like it, but I ended up really, really enjoying it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. The dynamics between our male and female lead in this one were really, really intriguing, and I really appreciated how their relationship evolved and developed throughout this story. There was some heavy hitting stuff happening, and I felt like it was dealt with in really just such a respectable way, a way that showed how talented this author is. And yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed this. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in the month of March, I got a physical ARC of from Cerulean Books, but I also was able to get the advanced listening copy through NetGalley, so I did listen and read at the same time. And that book is Like Happiness by Ursula Villarreal-Moura. And I know I said that last name wrong during my March TBR, and I think I said it the correct way now. I hope I did. This one, I was actually really intrigued to read this because I have thoroughly enjoyed the books that I have gotten from Cerulean Books as ARCs. They have just always worked so well for me. I don't want to say that it was a bad book. I definitely don't think it was. I think I was wanting more. I think that what was told through the then and now timelines was really great. I just wish the story almost had more to it. Like, it's not a super long book. I wish it had like 50 more pages. I wish we got a little bit more to the story towards the end. And so I ended up rating this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I ended up picking up was one that I'm realizing I don't have the physical copy of right now, which is annoying because I do own it. But that is Midwinter Murder by Agatha Christie. When I think Midwinter, I'm thinking February. Yes, it is March. But I figured, let me read it now, because if I wait all the way to read it in December, like, I feel like maybe it won't work as well. And honestly, I wish I would have saved it for December, because this ended up being a collection of short stories from Agatha Christie, and a few of them dealt with Christmas or the holiday season. So I think it would have hit a little bit better if I read it at the end of the year instead of picking it up now. I did enjoy these short stories. I actually read and listened to this one as well, and ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that we're going to talk about is one that I just randomly picked up on a whim. I remembered that I had this book and that I've heard good things about it, and that is By a Thread by Lucy Score. I don't personally think that I like romance suspense, and so I was excited to try something from Lucy Score that I didn't think was romance suspense, and this is not. This is really a grumpy sunshine workplace romance kind of a vibe, and I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it. I wasn't blown away by the way that it was written. I wasn't blown away by our characters. I wasn't blown away by their chemistry. So it ended up not being a bad read, but it wasn't anything that I feel like is going to stick with me. And so I ended up rating it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I still very much enjoyed it. It just wasn't memorable. The next book that we're going to talk about is one that I actually read in the middle of reading the book we're going to talk about after it. And this is a short story. This is only available on Kindle, I believe. And that is the exception to the rule by Christina Lauren. I decided this would be something fun to pick up. I'm so glad that I did. I actually really enjoyed this. I thought that the premise was so cute. And I think I realized like this type of premise in books I really enjoy. And as I was nearing the end of it, I was kind of bummed that it was a short story. Like, I think this would have been a really fun novel. Like, I think it would have been really fun. So I liked it a lot. It was great to kind of dip my toe into like a little short romance story in the middle of what I was reading. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that we're going to talk about is my Instagram challenge book for March 2024. And I'm trying to find my Instagram challenge spread in my reading journal. This was recommended by @FarmerAM2, and I am so glad that she recommended it because I really enjoyed it. And that is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. This book was really good. I definitely feel this was my favorite read of March. And I know I said earlier I didn't rate anything 5 stars. I did not rate this 5 stars, but I still really appreciated and enjoyed this story. I think I said in my March TBR that this was a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. I figured out very quickly that it is not a fantasy. This is more of a, I guess, mystery story. It's got like a crime element, and we have our lead character really trying to like solve a case. I enjoyed that part of it, but really what got me about this was all of the discussion and the detail that was put in here about Native American culture. I found the way that our author discussed topics within Native American culture, discussed certain rituals, the reasoning behind certain things being done within Native American culture. I found it to be beautiful. I found it to be incredibly interesting, and I loved it. I absolutely loved that aspect of the story. I thought it brought so much to this and made me connect so deeply with the characters. And so I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that we're going to talk about, my pile of books is falling. The next book that we're going to talk about is one that I have been wanting to read for a really long time. So many people love this book. So many people say incredible things about it, and I've been very much looking forward to it. And that book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I ended up reading and listening to this together as well. And I will say I was unfortunately let down by this one a little bit. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was fun, and I thought it was cute, and I liked the characters, but I didn't think it was like anything extraordinary, I guess. And there was a little hint of romance in here, and I thought it was completely unnecessary, and I didn't really feel like that part of the story worked. Didn't hate this, but just didn't. I felt like I had really high expectations based on what I've heard, and it just didn't live up to those expectations. So I did give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, didn't hate it or anything, but it just wasn't as good as I was hoping or expecting it to be. And the last book that I read in the month of March, I actually read it today, is one that I still don't have a rating for. I feel like I need to sit on this one for a little while before I rate it, and that is Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. I actually have Ocean Vuong's novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous in my 24 books in 2024 challenge, and I will say that after reading this book of poetry, I'm a little nervous about reading On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous because I don't know if this author's style is quite for me. I had a hard time with the way that the poems are structured in here, and I think that's where a little bit of disconnect came from me, and that's why I feel like I really need to sit with this before I give it a rating. I didn't hate it, but I don't know if Ocean Vuong's writing is what my brain is, like the way my brain can process, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm gonna sit with this one for a little longer before I rate it. Yeah, that is it. That is it for the 12 books that I read in March 2024. I'm definitely looking forward to April. I'm curious as to how April's gonna go, if I'm gonna be able to follow my TBR, what's gonna happen. But yeah, that's it for this reading recap. If you all have read any of these books and want to chat about them, please leave a comment, spoiler-free comment down below. And as always, everyone, please be safe. Bye-bye.